Hi, I'm Michelle Bosch, real estate investor, mom, wife, and host of the InFLOW podcast. And I'm passionate about helping women invest in land and apartments. If you're tired of the ups and downs of the stock market or of the hassles that come with investing with houses and are looking for investments that actually produce passive cash flow safely and predictably, join me each and every week for real estate investing strategies and interviews with thought leaders that will leave you inspired and ready to step into flow for inflows of cash, inflows of ease, and inflows of grace in your life. Now, here on YouTube are the video versions of my podcast, and in order for you to get my latest information, please go ahead and subscribe. And now, let's go. Welcome to the InFLOW podcast. I am your host, Michelle Bosch. I have been excitedly waiting for this interview with my guest today. The very first time I met this iconic lady was back in 2014 here in Phoenix. And I don't think she remembers me. I was one of the many, many ladies in line to meet her and get my book signed at her official Arizona book launch of Think and Grow Rich for Women. What really stood out for me back then was that on stage, she wasn't alone. She was sitting alongside an amazing roster of women that were there supporting and collaborating with each other. They were discussing issues women face today with real life advice on how to overcome obstacles, seize opportunities. I remember some of the topics that were being discussed were about health and wellness, family issues, money matters, business ownership, etc. And from the moment I decided to launch the InFLOW podcast, I knew I wanted to interview her. She's been like on my list of amazing women and, to get on the show. And now 10 months later, my dream is coming a reality and she's here now. My guest today on the InFLOW podcast is Sharon Lechter. Welcome, Sharon.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I'm delighted to be with you and thank you for having me on your list. And I'm delighted we can make it work.
It is an honor for sure. Okay, so I want to give our audience a little bit of background about you. So in case you don't know about Sharon and you're newbie to financial literacy and to real estate in general, Sharon is without a doubt the premier expert for financial literacy and entrepreneurial success. She's a sought-after international speaker, best-selling author, mentor, philanthropist, CPA, a lifelong advocate for education. And in 1997, she co-authored the international bestseller Rich Dad, Poor Dad and released 14 books in that series. Over 10 years as a co-founder and CEO, she built that into the world's leading personal finance brand. In 2008, she was asked by the Napoleon Hill Foundation to help her re-energize the powerful teachings of Napoleon Hill. And she released 3 best-selling books in cooperation with the foundation. Think and Grow Rich, 3 Feet from Gold, Outwitting the Devil, which I've read, and her latest project, Think and Grow Rich for Women, which I've also read, and I have your signed book back in 2014. So let's jump right into the first question, Sharon. And I know that bringing financial literacy is super close to your heart, and you've dedicated your life to mentoring and educating others. In a time where making money isn't new for women, but making their money work for them, why is financial literacy so important?
Well, money is a life skill. It doesn't matter whether you're a janitor, an entrepreneur, CEO, or a spouse working at home. We all need money to live. And it's important for us to understand not just how to spend it, but also how to make it, how to invest it, and how to have it grow for us. And unfortunately, we still aren't teaching it in school. Now, there are only 5 states in the country that require a personal finance class for high school graduation. And that needs to change because the greatest gift you can give someone is financial education. We talk about the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Well, if you want to level the playing field, you need to teach kids about money in school because otherwise they learn it at home, which is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So financial education is critically important for all genders, all ages, all races. So,
yeah. Now, I know you served 2 U.S. presidents as an advisor on this particular topic of financial literacy. What were some of the initiatives that were discussed back then, and how did that end up trickling down and helping people on the ground?
Well, I served both President Bush and President Obama in that capacity. And it was started in 2008. So we know what happened to the economy in 2008. So there was a huge initiative to try and educate people. And of course, there was that rebate that went out to everyone. And then at the same time, we started the initiative that actually got launched in 2009. Now, there's the Credit Card Act, which prevents credit card companies from soliciting college students on campus. Huge issue, huge step. I can't take credit for the bill, but I can certainly take credit for being a squeaky wheel, because so many of our kids, you get to campus and they had, free t-shirt, free money, free pizza, free money, and it got kids into credit card debt very soon. That's what happened to my oldest son, and that was such a huge issue in my heart. So I was very, very proud to have been part of that initiative and part of the groundswell to get that law passed so that credit card companies can no longer solicit kids on campus. Now, they still do, but now they have to actually show that they have a job to repay it or a cosigner. So we're continuing to see those steps improve, and that's important.
Yeah, I remember, back in the day, I came here to the US in 1995 for college, and at the student union, it was filled with the possibility for you to just fill out very easily an application and get into that. So, and no questions asked, no cosigner. My parents were back home in Honduras, so I'm glad that has changed. That's a good change for sure. Now, let's back up a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your story. Did you always know financial literacy was going to be, the cornerstone of your impact, of your work, here now? Like, how did this all come about? How do you decide that, you want to be an accountant, go on and get your CPA certification and so on and so forth? How did this all start?
Well, I grew up in a very lower middle class environment. My parents were entrepreneurs through and through. I didn't realize that there was a different way to live than entrepreneurship. I lived in a very small house between my mom's beauty shop, my dad's used car lot. We had real estate rentals that I had to scrub bathrooms between tenants. We owned orange groves and land. So it was just part of my DNA, how I grew up. I didn't realize that everybody didn't do that. But of course, I hated it. I swore I'd never be an entrepreneur. I wanted to grow up and be a sophisticated professional. And so I made the decision. I was good at math. I like numbers. And I was double tracked in genetic biology and accounting. And the biology was going to take me 8 to 10 years in school. I could get out in 4 years in accounting. So I decided I was going to be a CPA. So that's kind of how that happened. But I loved it because it gave me a huge insight into companies that were very successful and how they did it, but also a few companies that were struggling and what they did wrong. So it was an incredible on-the-street learning experience for me. And about the age of 25, I was working crazy hours. And all of a sudden, my parents started looking a lot smarter, because it's like, if I'm going to work this hard, I should be working for myself, not someone else. And so at 25, I had an opportunity to join a client, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since.
Oh, never look back. Yeah, I can totally relate. Now, you mentioned, you were good in math, you're good in numbers. I know from just, meetings that I usually attend, in back in Phoenix, and of new real estate investor ladies, meetups and so on. So much hesitation. Why do you think women shy away, or are so scared of really understanding numbers and rolling up their sleeves when it comes to finances? What can be done? What could we do?
Yeah, well, it's not just in real estate.
Yeah.
One of the number one reasons why women-owned businesses don't go past the $1 million mark is that fear. There's a fear of really being on your own and building a business and taking control of the numbers. And yet when we do, women have proven over and over to be much better investors. And so it's a matter of that lack of self-confidence. A lot of it's built in because we weren't exposed to it in school. We didn't learn it. And so therefore, when we're thrown into it, and it's that not knowing that's worse. And I tell people, even if your financial situation is bad, just taking the time to determine where you are is actually empowering. Even if the numbers don't look good, at least you've taken action. And my dad would say, a map doesn't help you at all if you don't know where you are and where you're going. And so if you want to take control of your financial situation or build your business, you need to determine where you are. And the numbers tell a story. And if you don't learn how to read that story, someone's going to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
So it's so empowering and it's not that difficult. But the problem is, it's just like somebody learning a new language. All right. So, my husband doesn't speak Spanish. I speak a little bit. And so, when we're traveling, I can try and trip through a few words. But when you don't know a language, you feel like you're completely in the dark. It's the same thing with money. People are afraid of it, therefore they don't take the time. But if you just take a little time, you'll start actually seeing the patterns and seeing it. And take time with your accountant or your CPA that does your taxes. Have them walk you through it and compare year to year, see where you're doing better and maybe where you need to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what is your vision, of the world out there waiting for women, if we go for it and really access that, untapped potential personally in business, to create their legacies? What's your vision of what could be out there for women?
It will unlimited success. I mean, somebody far more successful than I, Warren Buffett, the world's #1 investor, has said the future of the world economically rests in the hands of women. We already control 60% of the personal wealth in the United States. And with that comes a responsibility to learn how to be stewards of that money, how to invest it, how to make it grow, and how to create generational wealth. It's going to continue to increase. We're taking over more and more of executive C-suite positions, and we need to train ourselves. We also need to know that, again, we need to be stewards not only of our own personal wealth, but of those companies that we're leading. And women continue to expand their roles. In excess of 30%, it's either between 32 and 37% of households of women are the primary household breadwinners, and that's continuing to grow. And so it's happening whether we want it to or not. And I think most of us do, but we want to do it with elegance, with grace, and with knowledge. And we do that by taking control. And that's why I do the programs that I do. That's why I wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women. I have an online program called Think and Grow Rich for Women that goes deeper than the book. We do seminars with people all the time. I go speak at women's groups to talk to them about money, how to understand money, and how to interpret it, and then how to engage it and ignite it so that you have greater wealth.
Oh, I love that. Engage it and ignite it. Love that for sure. You talked right now about generational wealth. What does legacy mean to you?
Well, legacy doesn't necessarily mean money. Legacy, you're creating your legacy every day. The Play Big movement that I launched last year means being #1 in your field, living your legacy, and then creating maximum impact. And when I say your legacy, with every heart you touch, you create a legacy. So whatever your impression of me, Michelle, today, that's part of my legacy. Your impression on me, that's part of your legacy. And so, don't think about when you're gone. Let's think about when you're living every single day, and know that, at the end of the day, my dad would ask me as a little kid, Sharon, have you added value to someone's life today? Well, he's been gone for almost 16 years, but I still ask myself that every night. Sharon, have I added value to someone's life today? That's my legacy. And that's, your legacy. Yes, generational wealth can be your legacy. All right, there's a financial legacy, but there's also that spiritual legacy, and both are very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, from your experience, like when it comes to starting and running businesses, women are like you said earlier, the future of American business. According to a Nielsen report, women control 2/3 of the American consumer wealth, and they will be controlling in less than a decade. And yet almost all business and success literature is written for men. That's why I loved you, releasing the Think and Grow Rich for Women. From your experience, what are some of the unique strengths that entrepreneurial women bring into the business world that we should be tapping into much more?
Well, I think, a study by the University of Pennsylvania showed that men and women, our brains actually operate differently. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, we are, even though the steps of success are the same for men and women, we approach them very differently. Men tend to be much more decisive. We tend to be a little bit more analysis paralysis. but that makes us better problem solvers. And so, we do more research. Men tend to be more quick in their decisions. So that's why when men and women come together, you have the best of both worlds. Women tend to be more, they use more empathy, they're more collaborative. And so all of those work to support us. But what happens is when women start their own business, they feel like they have to do it on their own. And that's one of the first steps I share with the people that I mentor. I mentor a lot of women and men, business owners, to surround yourself with people who can support you and want you to succeed. People who are strong where you are weak. All right. Yeah. Having that network. I've been on the board of Women Presence Organization for many, many years, over 20 years. And that's a peer group of women who meet every month. It's like your advisory board. All right. Mm-hmm. And you need that. Entrepreneurship can be very lonely. And so don't try and do things on your own. Reach out. And one of the things women, typically they don't like to ask for help. Well, asking for help to the right person, I go, don't think of it as asking for help. Think of it as showing respect. That person has a level of wisdom that can help you. And so you're asking them for support to share their wisdom, but also be prepared to, give back something, have that reciprocity.
Yeah, absolutely. We, as a matter of fact, right now, as of the time of this recording and this conversation with you, I'm here. I was telling you I was here in Hawaii, also hosting a mastermind of land investors, and it's called the Ultimate Boardroom. And this is exactly it. Most of them say, every quarter, we go out there, be in our businesses, we're alone, we're kind of like slaying the dragon on our own, and we come back and it's and it's a humbling experience, and at the same time it's reinvigorating, and they're able to push through that ceiling of complexity and go back. And it is so important to have that brain trust, like you were saying, in asking for help. Now, entrepreneurial women, because we have a couple in our group, and they are really doing amazing, over 7 figures, one of them very close to 8 figures. For women that are already making good money, what would you recommend be their next play in terms of making money work for them? What's the next big play for example, for a woman, an entrepreneurial woman, whether it be the real estate industry, any industry for that matter? What would their next big play be when it comes to making the money work for them?
Well, I think that depends on their own personal age, their own personal plans, their family situation. A set answer to that question would be would not be wise. Women of wealth have the opportunity to support other women in business. They have the opportunity to participate in funds that are investing for women rather than just doing it one-to-one. And that's kind of fun because you're with other women of wealth coming together to create and support women that are on the rise. So that's something I would consider thinking about. There's Bell Capital, there's Springboard. Those are all organizations and funds that support women entrepreneurs. And certainly women of wealth, you need to make sure that you are looking at your estate planning and holding that wealth in a situation. If you're older, your plans should probably be a little more conservative than if you're younger. And so all those aspects, it's important to have someone who understands and has worked with wealthy people. The biggest step I see is people want to go cheap, and they hire somebody that really doesn't have clients as wealthy as they are. And so they're getting advice that's not applicable to them. And so when you've created that certain level of success, your mentors and your advisors need to change. You need to have the mentors and advisors that are there supporting people who are even wealthier than you are, because they know what to do. They've been there, they've done it, and they've supported other people in not just sustaining their wealth, but investing it and make it grow.
Yeah. I that's one of my things that I've discussed in prior episodes, that, I see, I come across quite a bit of entrepreneurial women, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, how are you advocating your power, to a financial advisor? You're doing 7 figures, over 7 figures. And yet you are taking advice from someone that is making, 200 grand a year. So very, very good advice there on really upping our game when it comes to, the advisors that surround us. Now, shifting gears a little bit, or continuing along the line of women CEOs, very few forums out there are really right now talking or focused on the idea of, for example, for women that already have successful business like myself, I find myself like, I don't have enough other women or groups where I can talk about what my next big play with is going to be. For some of us, it could be an exit from our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And in order, to get great multiples from the sale of your business, there are some strategic considerations, financial parameters, that we need to know now, in order to be able to exit, in say 2-3 years from now. What would be some of those strategic considerations you think that we would have, to make from your, long trajectory as an entrepreneur?
Well, your audience is going to think this was a plug, but no, we didn't discuss this. Actually, I have a new book coming out in April of next year. And right now, the working title is Profits Speak. And it's all about positioning your business and for highest sale price. So stay tuned for a book from Sharon Lechter next year. We have my fourth book with the foundation is coming out in September called Success and Something Greater, with some incredible women in it as well. But
Okay.
when you're positioning your business, you need to really look at it as the fact that it is an asset. It is not your own personal purse. Most people who own their own businesses are not really strategic and specific about their accounting. And so they do a lot of personal expenses through the company, or they don't pay themselves anything. There are all kinds of crazy things that happen. And so when you're out to sell your business, there are adjustments that need to be made from any potential buyer. They're going to want to come in and see that. If they see that you've been a little loosey-goosey with what you're doing, they're going to want to dig even deeper on the due diligence before they buy it. So the best thing to do is position yourself as a professional business and have professional advisors, and have, even have an audit. If you're looking at exiting your company, an audit takes you way up in the eyes of a potential buyer, because they know that there's been an outside eyes looking at it and doing it strategically in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that is a huge advantage. Does it cost you some money? Yes, but you will get it back 10 times in a potential sale. And so that I would start with having an outside company come in and audit your books, even if initially they're just doing a review, and so that you can kind of get things straightened up, and then you can go back and have an audit.
Yeah. That's very, very helpful, because we, a year and a half ago, I actually, we hired a fractional CFO. For the most part, I was, in charge of that function, but it was something where I have a superior skill, but it's not in my genius. It's not my passion. And I'm like, I need to bring someone on board to help me out. And part of those things is that as an owner, you said, like you said, you go on a trip and you're like, oh, okay, I can count this as a business, expense or a business meeting because I did meet with so-and-so and so, but you're not as disciplined and diligent about documenting, of making sure that, as if you were to bring someone from the outside, out, in and look at it and make sure that everything is, nicely and cleaned and so on and so forth. So yeah, I've seen the value of what you just recommended right now, just from, working with one of the, top CFOs. He used to work for Bob Parsons' family office, and he was the former CFO for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I'm just so happy to have someone like that, from the outside look at my numbers and start getting us in line. Now, I want to get into a little bit more personal now. And I know that you suffered a few years back an incredible loss, the loss of your son. And I read, on your website, you were describing yourself as coasting through life, for a period of time, after that loss. How did you deal with that, or what did you do to make sure that even during that difficult period in your life, you were still bringing in inflows of ease, of grace, into your life?
Well, it was December of 2012. We lost our oldest son, and you're not supposed to outlive your children. And it's something that it's a loss that you don't ever want anybody to join you in that kind of loss. And it's something that, but I'm sure that everybody watching or listening to this has something that stopped them in their tracks. And I had responsibilities. I still had to show up and speak and work, but I was doing it in what I've lived my life in overdrive. I've lived my life playing big, looking at the big partners and really doing strategic deals. I talk about the power of association. And at that point in time, I kind of like put my foot off the accelerator and continued doing what I was doing. But I literally was kind of coasting through for a couple of years. And in fact, about a year and a half ago, I decided that maybe I should retire. And I got quite a bit of pushback from my family and friends. And I think even from my son, I could hear him saying, "Get over it, Mom. There's more for you to do." And for all of you that have lost somebody near and dear to you, or something that's happened to you, and you don't have that same zest for life, you're still here for a reason. There is more for you to do. There are people out there that can benefit from learning from you and knowing you. And that realization made me make the decision not to retire. So I say, instead of retiring, I decided to refire. And I launched the Play Big movement because now I'm playing big again. And I'm doing it to share with people what things that they can do, what I'm doing, they can also do, to be number one in their field, to become the authority in your field, and then to live your legacy and create maximum impact. Everyone is an expert. Everybody has had successes and failures. There are other people who can benefit from what you know already, but let's elevate you to becoming the authority. And so with my mentoring clients, when I'm talking to people, I'm constantly supporting them in finding their superpower, finding the way that they can become the authority in their field. And so I have a private Facebook group called Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter. It's free to join. So I invite all of you to join that, Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter. And then I also have launched some online courses. One is Money Mastery, understanding how to get yourself to the point where you can be financially steady. And then the Play Big Movement course, which shows how you can create financial freedom and a life of significance. And so those courses are both available as well online. But more importantly, it is for each and every one of you to find that space within your life to realize that you are entitled to success. You deserve success, but it starts here in your heart and in your head. You are in control of your future. You're the CEO of your own life. Every one of us is where we are today because of the choices we made before today. All right. My trajectory kind of went like this because I made the choice to take my foot off the accelerator. It was not necessarily the right choice, but it's what I did, and I accept that. And now I'm playing big again, and so I'm inviting people to come along with me.
That is fantastic. I love that, the Play Big movement. And I love You Deserve Success. I had to write that down. Now, what are the top 3 pieces of advice for women out there, to start leading in their whole life, and, stop doubting themselves when it comes to creating material and spiritual wealth? What would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
Well, you have value. You have been through events in your life that nobody else has. You've had successes and you've had learning opportunities, and other people can benefit from what you know. And, rather than thinking that you're out there selling, think of yourself as serving others, helping other people. And through that service, you're going to be compensated. And so, but then, we do have a self-confidence issue. And so it's important to surround yourself by people who believe in you, that can hold your head above water when you're not quite so confident. Because that's, trying to stay alone, you end up with that fear. Okay, we need to replace the fear with faith. And I have a personal success equation that I released in 3 Feet from Gold, which is combining your passion and your talent. Now, my passion came from anger. I was mad that we weren't teaching kids about money. And my talent was accounting and my experience in publishing. And so I combine those, but you can't stop there. That's what school teaches us. And most of us stop there thinking we have to do it on our own. But then there's a times A, stands for association. Surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you are, surrounding yourself with bigger companies that can support you, joint ventures, strategic alliances, the right employees, the right mentors. Making sure you have a mentor who's going to open doors for you. They're going to step in your business, not just sell you theirs. Times A, taking action. Right? Many of us know what we're supposed to do. We just don't do it. So
Yeah.
taking action. And then there's a plus F, and that F is faith. Having faith in ourselves, having faith in what we're doing, having faith that it's needed and necessary. And that faith is what gets us through the down times, because the most successful businesses solve a problem or serve a need. And when you remind yourself in the morning when you get out of bed what problem you're solving and what need you're serving, you take it outside of yourself, and that gives you that inspiration to keep going and keep serving others. But most of us, that F is fear. We're afraid that we're afraid of the criticism, afraid that somebody's going to think we look stupid or what we're doing is crazy. And you have to shed the fear, because fear does one of two things: paralyzes us or motivates us. And most of us, we get paralyzed with fear. We want to crawl up. We want to sit in a dark room. And instead, recognize that fear and turn it into motivation and say, I'm not going to allow that fear to hold me back. I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to find the right association with my passion and my talent. I'm going to take that action, and I'm going to create the success that I deserve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is fantastic. It really speaks. I had just released a few weeks back a little video on fear really thrives on time, and courage really loves speed. And the longer you think about things, and the greater the fear becomes, and so on. Cut fear on the knees by just going for it, not taking all the time, because if you speed up and take action, more than likely, once you're in momentum, that fear disappears. And it's kind of what you're saying about, your success formula there. How are you bringing that faith every day into your life? How do you bring it into your life every day?
Well, it is I don't necessarily bring it into my life, because it is an integral part of my life. Okay. I am here. We are all here. There is a God that I believe. We live in a world of abundance, not a world of scarcity. I believe I'm accountable for my actions, and I'm very, every day I give thanks to God for the fact that I have another day. And it's become even more important. Things that used to upset me before I lost my son, they don't upset me anymore. It redefines everything when you have that kind of loss. And so if I didn't have my faith, I wouldn't have survived it. And, there's times that you can get mad at God, and other times you have to say, okay, I'm still here, and I'm still here for a reason. And so faith is ever present, ever supporting, as long as we let it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this has been an amazing conversation, Sharon. I took quite a bit of notes here. I'm actually probably reaching out to you, because I'm like, oh man, I'm interested in her mentorship program. What is she doing there? Where can people find out more about you? I know how I can reach you, but if anyone listening here, how can people find more about you, what you're doing, and how can they connect with you?
Well, thank you. Yes. I'm Sharon Lechter everywhere. I'm SharonLechter.com, and that's LECHTER.com, SharonLechter.com. I have an author Sharon Lechter Facebook page. I have Twitter. I'm on Instagram, Sharon Lechter. There's a couple that are not me, but Sharon Lechter on Instagram. And then the Playbook Movement with Sharon and the Facebook page, the private Facebook page. And then for all of those of you, the success equation is very important. It helps you analyze where you are and what you want to do. And so if you go to bit.ly/success equation, no space, just bit.ly/success equation, all lower caps. I have a gift to give you that will help you walk through your own success equation and challenge you to think about what you can do to take yourself to the next step. So I welcome you to go there. And then if anybody that wants to contact me, info@Sharon Lechter, we'd be just absolutely thrilled to hear from you. And if you are interested in mentoring, we do have a few spots we just opened up. I don't take too many clients, but reach out to us at info@SharonLechter.com. I just graduated a couple of people that I'm very proud of. So info@Sharon Lechter, any question, we'd be happy to serve you.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for, the free gift there for, people listening. It's been an honor to have you. You caused a great impression on me. You truly, epitomize achievement, determination, kindness, collaboration, through your support of other women and your work, in really educating families on financial literacy. Thank you so very much. It was, like I said, an honor having you today with me on the show.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I thank you and appreciate all that you're doing for all the people that are watching and listening and learning from you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
I hope this episode left you feeling inspired and ready to get inflows of cash, inflows of light, and inflows of faith in your life. I welcome your reviews on iTunes. Please leave me a review and help me create an amazing community of women in flow. Thank you, as always, for sharing your voice by going to michellebosch.com and joining the conversation about this show. And while you're there, grab a copy of my 10 Commandments to Living a Life in Flow. You can also follow me on Facebook at Michelle Bosch and on Instagram at Michelle Bosch Official. Thank you very much, and until the next one.